You can now create AI agents with FlutterFlow's new Agent Builder. So in this video, we're going to talk about what Agent Builder is, how to use it, and what are some common use cases. Agent Builder allows you to create and deploy AI agents using all the models from Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic, designed to interact with your users however you want. So you could have one agent that's designed for customer service, another for text summarization, and a third for text extraction. But wait a second, couldn't you already do this? Like, you could set up APIs before and call them in different ways. So isn't this just like an API wrapper? Well, yes and no. Yes, they are wrappers around APIs, but no, they're not just wrappers. Agent Builder adds a bunch of additional features as well. So what are the benefits of Agent Builder? First, simplicity. Adding all the API logic is time-consuming and a lot of boilerplate. Agent Builder simplifies this whole process. We also take care of securing API keys by deploying them in a cloud function in your Firebase account. And we keep all the models up to date so you don't have to keep fiddling with configuration. Second, tools. Agent Builder opens the door for agentic action within your app. That is, now that we've built the foundation for agents, we're now working on giving agents the ability to take actions, to execute logic within your app. So coming soon, you will be able to set up action flows that you make available to your agents. So maybe you have some navigation action if your agent decides it should bring your user somewhere, or an API call action if your agent needs to fetch some data from somewhere else. But more broadly, Agent Builder is not just a new feature, but a new module, an environment that will continually be developed because AI agents aren't just one feature, but a developing ecosystem that requires a whole new environment to grow. Okay, so let's go set an agent up. So we're here in a new project, and before we get started, there are a few prerequisites. You need Firebase, Firebase Authentication, and you need to be on a paid plan. And that's just because the features we're using are Firebase paid features. So let's come over to our settings right here, go to Firebase, and we're gonna let FlutterFlow create a new Firebase project for us. All right, that's connected. Now let's enable auth. So let's get started, and I'm just gonna use anonymous for this demo. All right, that's great. Now let me upgrade my account to a paid service. All right, now let's jump back into FlutterFlow. Next, let's generate our config files. The last thing we need to do is set up an authentication page. Your agents will only work if the user is authenticated. So I've just got an anonymous login page here with an anonymous action, and we've enabled our authentication, and we're ready to go. So let's come over here to our agent builder, and we've got this add a new agent. Now, remember, you can have many agents for many different purposes, but we'll just create a customer service agent. Next, let's give a description of what this agent is. And next, let's come over to provider. We're going to use Google. And what's great about using Google models is that you don't have to provide an API key. That's because Google uses the authentication architecture that was already created with Firebase to authenticate the requests. We also don't need to deploy a cloud function for Google models. So that's really great. Next, because we're using a Google model, we need to enable Vertex AI in Firebase. So we can just click there. So I'll scroll down here, and this is what you want, Vertex AI in Firebase. Next, enable the APIs in GCP and continue. Then just regenerate your config files. Okay, that's all set up, so let's select a model. I'm gonna use Gemini 2.0 Flash, and down here we've got some options. So first one is the request options. That is the types of data that you're gonna be sending to the model. So if you're just chatting, then you would send text. If you wanna send images, audio, or video, you can select those too. Then you've got the response option, and currently you have 3 options. You can have the model return text, Markdown, or JSON, and we'll look at all of those, but we'll just do text for now. Finally, we've got some model parameters, and I'm just going to leave those all at the defaults. Okay, so we've got our customer agent set up. Next, we need to set a system message. This is really important because this will be telling the model how you want the model to behave. So I'm going to tell my agent, You are a helpful customer service agent. And of course, any additional information about how you want this agent to act, you would add it in here. So maybe you want to tell it a little bit about your company, the way that you want it to speak to customers, and some negative things about what you want the agent to avoid. Next, you can add some pre-loaded messages. So you can select whether it's the user or the assistant, and then the message. This will give a model conversation to the agent to further direct its behavior. This is a supplement to your system message because your system message is telling the agent how you want it to act, and your preloaded messages are showing your agent how you want it to act. We'll get to that later, but let's not use it right now. Okay, so that's it. So we can just publish this agent. All right, so let's go build out a chat interface. Okay, so I've got a basic scaffolding right here with some text input, the button to send the chat, and this chat item right here. I also have a data type defined here with chat, and it has an enum for the role, and there's two roles, a user and assistant, and the message. So on the page, I've got a page state variable that's chats, and it's a list of those chats. Okay, so this is all set up and ready to go. All right, so we want to chat with our agent. So let's come into our action flow editor, and on tap, what do we want to do? Well, first let's add that first chat, like whatever the user put in there, into our page state variable. So let's add an action. Let's search for page. Let's update that page state variable. Our chats we want to add to our list here, and we're going to create one of these objects. The first field will be the role, and this of course will be the user. Then the message will come from that text field, which can be found in our widget state. Okay, beautiful. So we've added that to our page state variable, and because we're rebuilding this current page, that means that it will be bumped up, and so the user will see their chat. Okay, then let's send this message off to our agent. So if you just search for agent, you can see we've got two actions, send message and clear chat history. So we want to send a message and we need to select an agent. We only have one, but when you have multiple, you'll see those here, and then give it a conversation ID. Now this can be anything, but this is what the agent will use to track or remember the conversation. This is one of those nice things that Agent Builder handles for you. You don't have to keep passing in the past conversation. The agent does that itself. We'll just call this customer service, and then the text that we're sending. Of course, that's coming from our widget state right here. So let's put that in, and let's name our output variable, agent response. Great. So once we get the response back from our agent, of course, we'll want to write it back into this variable right here. So let's add an action. It's our page state variable. We are going to add this in here, and we want to add to a list. Let's come in here. We want to create that data object. The first role, of course, is going to be the assistant because that's the response we're getting back. And the message will come from our agent. So it's our action outputs. There we named our variable correctly, and it'll be the agent response. Let's confirm that. We're rebuilding the page, so that'll be populated into our chat. And last thing to do for just cleanliness is to clear out that text field. So search for clear and clear text fields, pin codes, and we only have one, so just select it. Beautiful. Next, let's bind that page state variable here so we can see it. So let's come into our list view. Let's come to this fourth option so we can generate dynamic children. We want to bind that to our page state variables right here, and we'll call this chat items. Save that, and now we can see those are bound, and we can come to in each one of these and assign values here, a data structure field, and this will be our message, and this role will be similar, but it will be, of course, a role. All right, let's test it out. All right, so let's just say hi. Beautiful and fast. And to show you that it manages all the memory, I can say, my name is John. And then you can ask it, what is my name? Wonderful. All right, this is looking great, but let's look at some other response options. So let's check out Markdown, because maybe I want my assistant to be able to provide links to places. So let me show you how that works. So let's come into our agent builder right here, and instead of response type being text, let's switch it to Markdown. You don't have to publish it again, it's already live. But now that it's returning Markdown, we have to switch our design so that it can accept Markdown. So instead of this text right here, we need a Markdown widget. So let's pull it up here. We can come over here, grab this binding right here, copy it, and we can delete that. We want this over here. And now we want to bind this data to the same place we were using before. All right, now let's go test it. All right, can you give me a website for learning a new language? And beautiful, we've got good formatting from the Markdown, and we've got links that we can click on. Love it. Next, let's look at some examples for when you would want to use a JSON output. So here's the idea. I've got this form right here, and when the user submits it, I want the agent to look at what they wrote right here and send an email to the right department. And this is a great example for when you would want to use a JSON output. So let's set up this new agent. So let's create a new agent, and we're going to call this department identifier. Its job is to identify the correct department. The provider is going to be Google, and we'll use the same model. It'll take in our text, but the response will be JSON. Now, you'll notice down here that it says you must describe the JSON structure you want the assistant to respond in with the system message. Okay, so right here, we give it a structure. So I'm going to paste this in here. Your role is to return which department the user's request is closest to. Return JSON according to this JSON structure right here. So I have a department key right here, and the value is going to be a string, and it's to select from these options right here. Now, because I want it restricted to these options, that's why I gave it this structure right here. But if your use case can be more free form, you could do something like this, and the model will understand that. Okay, let's publish it, and let's see how we would design this logic right here. So when the user clicks on submit ticket, we want to run the following logic. We want to add an action. We're searching for those agent actions. We want to send a message, and our agent now is department identifier. We'll just call this department, and the text input will be the widget state right here of that description. Our output variable will be department. And let's just take a look at that before we add the rest of our logic right here. Okay, I'm going to say I need help with my computer. And what we're looking at down here is this action output. That's going to be the response. So let's submit our ticket, and we can see department technology. Love that. Okay, so what do we do now? Well, now that we have structured output in the form of JSON, that means we can build consistent logic. So let's go take a look. Let's add another action here, and we'll add a conditional. And we're going to have multiple conditions right here. So let's just add another one in here just so we can see how it would look. Now, because we're getting a structured response, we can create a data type for it to parse. So let's close out of here. Let's go into our data types, create a new data type. We'll call this department, and we just need department, and we'll just call that a string. Okay, so now we can come back into our action flow editor, and we can set up our first condition here. So what we're doing is we're looking for a single condition. We are looking at what we're getting back from our agent. We want to parse that to a data type, and we've got this nice data type here. So confirm it. And if this equals department, let's say technology, then we can execute this logic. So here we could say email our IT department, and then have the email marketing department here. So let me just add some snack bars in here so we can see technology emailed. Now let's just add in the rest. All right, let's test it out. I need help with my computer. Beautiful. Let's look at another application of JSON mode. For this use case, I've got this W-2 info page right here. And for those outside the United States, this is just a tax form. And so the idea for this is that we would have a data extractor agent so that the user can upload that form and then it sends it off to the agent to extract this data that they need and then fills it in. Okay, so let's go create this agent right here. So we're going to call this a W-2 tax extractor, and this will extract data. Our provider is going to be Google again and Flash 2.0, and we want the response type to be JSON, and we're also going to upload an image. Now let's define our system prompt here. And what I've written is I want to return the employee data from a W-2 that the user will upload. And we want the model to return in the following JSON format. So here we've got first name, last name, and employer federal ID. Okay, let's go publish this. And I've already created a data model here with this same structure. So we've got this tax profile with a first name, last name, and federal ID. Okay, all right, so on this upload W-2 here, I simply have an action to upload an image to our widget state, and we've got a page state variable, which is just the data type that we'll write to. Okay, so now let's come in here and define this logic. So when the user clicks, we want to send this message off to our agent. So we want to send a message, and the agent will be our tax extractor. We can call this tax, and we can say extract the data from this form. And the image input will be an uploaded image file here that's in our widget state. That's our uploaded local file. And we're going to say W-2 data. All right, next we'll get the response back with our structured data. So we'll want to write that to our page state variable. And so there we go. We want to set the value and we want to create this object. And we've got 3 fields in here, first name, last name, and ID. So this is coming from our action output, our W-2 data. And because we already set up that data model, we can use it to parse that. So to data type, our tax profile, and one of the data structure fields here, and it is our first name and confirm it. So let's just fill the rest of these out. So I'm just going to copy it here and paste it in, and then just change the field there. And then finally, same thing with this last one, paste it in, and we want our ID there and confirm. Okay, so we've updated this variable with the data that's been extracted. Now we just need to write those in our form field to fill up our form field. So we want to set form field properties. So we want this first name, and this is being set from that variable, and we want that first name right there. And let's set another form field, our last name, and let's just grab this value out of here, copy it, and paste it in. This will be last name, and then one more. All right, let's test it out. All right, let's upload our W-2. It looks like this, and submit it. Beautiful. There it is. Just like that, our agent extracted this data. Here's one last example of how to use JSON structured output. Maybe I've got some home automation system with a temperature controller. And I've got this temperature right here with these enums of different integers that will be how much it will increment or decrement the temperature. So if they want it colder, they'll return -1 or -2, and warmer +1 or 2. And here when I was testing it, it wasn't giving me the JSON response. So here's a perfect example of when to use preloaded messages. So when I say, can I make it warmer, I return 1. If I say I'm really cold, then you would return -2. Okay, so what are the main use cases of AI agents? Well, let me list a bunch right here. So you could have a customer service agent or a text summarization agent. And remember that these don't have to be chatbots. It might be helpful to add another category in your head of tools or utilities. I mean, that's what text summarization is. You're not chatting with it, but you're using this agent to do something. You could have an agent for translation or data extraction, lead qualification, personalized recommendations, form pre-filling, educational or content creation helper, and data analysis. So that's the new AI agent builder. We're so excited for it, and we're excited to see what you build with it. So leave any questions below, and we'll see you in the next video.